Your life experience, good or bad, is a gift when you share it with others. At Taxi Chronicles, we allow real riders with real stories to share their gift. So hopefully this episode will intrigue, enhance or inspire you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Morning. Yes, we're back with another rider, another episode. Today we're honoured to have a guy, and he's a photographer, but he's not just a normal photographer. I'm not sure if I should say it like that, but he's a photographer for influencers, and I'm sure he's got many a story to tell of what it's like dealing with influencers. So nice to have you here today, Benjamin.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so tell us first of all, what kind of person were you when you were in school?
There you go. You start all the way back there, do we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, luckily enough, I'm not that old. I can remember some of it. I would probably describe myself. Do you know what? I was that kid that got the report that said from the teachers, if Ben applied himself more and did less talking, less clown, less being the class clown, then he would have probably done much better in school. I struggled in some subjects. I found certain things quite hard. So I enjoyed definitely things like art and design, and hence why I end up in the position that I am in now, I suppose, doing photography and doing my own influencing with people. And I also work in the smart home tech world, so I do things like home cinemas. We design those types of things. So I'm a man of multiple disciplines, but when you look back to kind of the fabric of where it all started, was probably on that design element and that kind of artistic side of things.
Okay. So what were the subjects you took in school leading up into over education, leading up to where you are today?
I've done a lot, and this will surprise you, because I went to university, and unfortunately I hope you don't mind me kind of talking about this, but I went to university when I was 18, and I ended up with quite a bad drug problem.
Okay, nice.
So
enough, it's part of the journey of life.
Exactly, yeah. So I was 18, went to Manchester University. I was a big fish from a little pond, and I suddenly ended up in this big city from like a little Yorkshire town, and I didn't cope. I didn't cope very well, and I kind of utilised drugs as a way to have self-confidence. Well, that's how it started, but with all these things, unfortunately, the drug, whatever it is, it doesn't matter whether it's physical drugs or it's things like gambling or all the rest of it, it takes over you. And so I didn't last very long, to say the least, in the university. It was about 9 months, and then I ran away to Madrid, like a proper grown-up would do. I remember writing a letter to my parents, actually, to say that I've basically naffed up, and I feel like I've let them down, and I'm gonna.
So you opened up to them. You told them what your situation was.
I did, but not properly. What I should have done was I should have sat down with them. So I ran away, and I was the best part of homeless for the first 3 months. Managed to find a job, get myself back on the feet, and actually my brother came out to Spain and dragged me back to the UK because everyone was so worried about me.
That's what family's for.
Exactly that, and essentially that was when things started. I started to find the belief in myself as a person through professional help. So I got therapy. I worked out what my problems were, my self-confidence problems, and yeah, it got me some belief in myself, and I slowly built myself up to be someone who's not afraid to start a conversation or to put myself into situations that some people might find themselves uncomfortable with.
When you were in Madrid, were you still using, or?
No, that's it. One of the big things, one of the best things about being in Madrid was not many people spoke English, so it made it pretty hard to get gear, so and I knew it was the way to separate myself. I knew that if I put myself into a situation where it was so hard to use and get hold of something, that it will give me the best opportunity to stop the habit. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it stopped like cold turkey. There was times, but it definitely was the start of getting me into a position where I didn't have to use, and I wasn't reliant on it.
That's
Got deep, didn't it, brother?
No, it's just believe you're not the first one to open up, and I've got over 500 episodes here, so there's a lot of things. It just brings a lot of things to mind about the journey of recovering. So what I notice is like what they do with these gangs now. They take them out of the environment, put them in an environment where there's no need to have to fight anybody.
Yeah.
And then from that, they just can focus on whatever they really want to do.
That's it.
In that respect. So
I think the other part of it is that I know, through professional help and through just learning myself, is that I have an addictive personality. And once you understand that, it's how you manage that within your life. And some people have just got it inside them. Like I can pick up something like photography, and I just need to know all about it. And it becomes an obsession. And then, I'm married. I've been married for a good. No, I've got to be careful here. I've got to get this right, haven't I? 7 years. I've been together with my wife for probably 15.
So and 7 years plus.
Yeah.
Just to be safe.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's one of those things is that she's got to see the signs of obsession as well, because it's not healthy. Obviously there is healthier obsessions than others, but when it becomes an obsession, it just needs to be tailored back slightly so that people are more in control of what's happening, and it doesn't overtake their life and other people's lives. Yeah. And like you say, is that kids these days they've got tough little life. Personally, I think we grew up and we didn't have the outside influences of social media. I'm going to say you're similar age to me. So yeah, exactly. Like we grew up and the influence was the people around us, and that makes you into the man that you are. Whereas we're in an odd society these days where social media creates the influence around these people, and it's not real. We only see the positives of people's lives. We don't see the negatives of people's lives. And when we grew up, you were put in front of it. You saw it. You saw the bad side and the good side, and you made choices based upon them.
Yeah, I hear you. So, from recovering from the drugs, when did you end up in photography?
Well, there's a big section between that. So
okay.
When I came back, I actually did an apprenticeship as an electrician. Right. So, but I've got really beautiful hands, and I hate getting them dirty.
I love that honesty there. I've got really
mate, these are the softest hands that you've ever seen, and so for me, it was one of those ones that I knew that I needed something behind me, and through that growth period of finding myself and I suppose being more confident with myself, it actually protected me because I had people around me who were teaching me skills that were real people, like real blokes, that were seeing me right, making sure I was learning something, learning a trade, and yeah, it did me really well. But I always knew that I was missing something. It didn't really make me happy. I knew it was something that was important for me to do, but it wasn't really making me happy. So I took a night course in lighting design. I know, and this sounds bonkers, but it will come round, I promise.
No, don't worry. It's your journey, your story.
So I did a lighting design degree on a night, and then fast forward 3 or 4 years, worked for a few engineering companies, worked for a few interior designers, worked for a few lighting design companies, and then ended up in the smart home world of installing cinemas, installing smart homes, blah blah blah. And I suppose that's where the photography came from, was because it was so expensive to find photographers to do stuff for us that I picked it up as an obsession, probably 10 years ago now, and it became a passion of mine, something that I absolutely love doing. There's just nothing better. I really like the photography of probably more portrait and people-based photography. Capturing people's emotions is one of the most delightful things you can ever do. If you can get someone in a space where, I don't know, something's happened in their life and you've managed just to capture that in something that's timeless, it's one of the most special things in the world. You know, like we had a little conversation before this, and it's that statement I said beforehand. Is life is a sequential amount of experiences that you have in your life, and those experiences are the things that define you. And I think photography, for me, the love and the passion behind of it is, if you can ever capture one of those experiences, there's just nothing like it.
I see you say. Going back to where you said you started working with obviously the builders, what I like about that, because I come from a family of builders, is that with builders, they're men that are very responsible.
Yeah.
Because they understand about a hard graft.
Yeah.
And ideally, looking after one's network or family.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would probably the perfect environment for yourself at that moment there. So with this photography, give us, you take photos of influencers. What kind of influencers have you taken photos of? And how does a typical day go for you?
No, I've got to be really careful. So I have worked with people from, these shows, they say, on TV.
Oh, like Love Island and all
yeah,
that.
things like that. People that are influencers in the tech space, that's where I'm off to now. I'm off to go to a showroom to have a look at some products and some influencers in the tech space. So yeah, it's very much a case of spending some time with them, taking some shots. I tend to work on the basis of looking what's missing within the portfolio. So, and generally the fun's missing. I guess you see all these sexy, pouty shots, and it's not real. Like I like real stuff. I like to show people's personalities.
So people can connect with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where some of these, unfortunately, the young people, they get objectified. They get there's a lot of opinions cast on them, and sometimes you just miss that they're just a person, just a human being like all of us. They've got a personality, and generally that's because the PR and the marketing that's been done around them has been based upon them being this perfect individual. I won't swear, but I like to kind of mess things up a little bit. Mm-hmm. If you can insert a different word there.
So, I always assumed that most influencers do their own, like, take selfies and all of that kind of thing, but from what I'm understanding from you, so I've interviewed quite a few photographers, but never a photographer who focuses on influencers.
Well, I think it's more the other way around. They came to me. I think that probably got a bit of a reputation within the market now of coming to us to allow us to show who they are, and some, like I do some of this stuff, like not necessarily podcasting, usually YouTube. I'll sit down with someone, I'll talk to them, and I'll take them back to their roots and try and make people understand where they're from. Generally, that's not me on the other side of it, but we'll talk to them. We'll ask them the right questions to lead them down the right story. And that's not in the sense that we want them to. We're not trying to put words in their mouth of who they are. We want them to tell the story of where they've come from, and remove that facade, that social media facade that people put on themselves, which they know is not healthy.
So basically, you ask the questions so you can hear how their journey
exactly like this,
where they are to date.
This is why I find it. I think this is so amazing. I think this is, it's so important to hear people's life journeys, because what it does is, it's like when you take a car journey. If you wanted to drive to York, if you spoke to 6 people and asked for directions there, they'd all give you, well, a couple of them would give you the same one, and that'd be the fastest journey. Some of them, a bit like cool and chill back, will give you the country version. It'll take you a couple of hours longer, but you'll see all the countryside. It'll be more relaxed. You won't be like driving at 70 miles an hour and having to concentrate all the way. And that is life, isn't it? Like if you ask enough people about the direction that they've been on, at some point you'll find a little groove that you feel that fits for you. And if I was a young person now in my 20s, that's what I wish I had. I wish I'd listened to more people about their journey and what they were doing and what made them happy and what inspired them. And things like this podcast is like, it's just right up my street. I love it. I think it's amazing. you know.
Thanks a lot. What do you say you've learned that you wish you knew when you had started?
Oh, mate. Oh. The confidence is something that is a muscle that needs to be trained, and that it's not something that can be just given to people. You know, you're not born with it. I'm sorry. I know some people on the facade probably are, or maybe their childhood has been more confident than others, but it's very reflective on the parents that are making that child into a confident person, and also making sure that you go to the gym every day and you use that confidence, you know, and you flex that muscle. So then as you get older, it doesn't mean that you have to go on stage with your jazz hands, you know, and be Mr., you know, confident, but even if that confidence lies deep down, and just being able to go and talk to a stranger every day, is that it's always there. And for me, I think it's one of the most important things, and one of the most important aspects of someone's personality.
Okay.
Personally, I think as well. I think humour's also a good one as well. That helps.
What would you say to your 16-year-old self?
Yeah. What does I say to my 16-year-old self? It's so difficult, you know. Like, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change the drugs. I wouldn't change the journey in terms of my work cycle of what I did. I wouldn't change the people I've met. I'd probably say that I need to be careful about how I treat other people. I think when I was 16, 17, 18, I was, you know, when you go through that kind of false confidence, where you think you're the man, and sometimes you trample over people, and sometimes you don't really care about the people that you're around, and maybe to a certain extent use them as well, which is it's not, you know, I was going to say we all do it, but possibly some of us are better people than that. So yeah, I'd probably say just try and respect people a little bit more. Like, I'm definitely in that position now, but I think there was probably late teens, early 20s where I did probably manipulate, and I did probably use people a bit.
Okay, that's good. What camera do you use, and what would you recommend someone using if they were going to get into the industry?
Do you know what? These days it's bonkers. You get an iPhone, and they are a stunning piece of equipment. Oh. You know, the thing is, unless you're willing to spend lots of time understanding focal lengths, lenses, you know, aspect ratios, all the kind of stuff that comes around cameras, you know, the great thing about photography is it's about capturing people, places, things, events. And for me personally, composition and that moment, even if it's on an iPhone, that's the most important part. What equipment you have is just something it's just the artist's tools. If you've got no flavour in you, you know, if you've got no...
When you say composition, what do you mean?
You've just got to see things. You've got to see things that need to be captured. It's got that...
So when you do that kind of...
Yeah, you know, like...
I'm doing a box now for the... For the listeners, there's a box of my fingers and I'm looking
yeah,
for it.
I mean, it's not necessarily like the box of the fingers, but, you know, I always have my phone out. My phone's always out, and people always think I'm on social media or Instagram. It's not. I'm just looking for, like, that for me is a perfect shot. Like, you looking at me in that mirror, and just seeing your eyes, and just, like, for me, that's a really deep, like, that would be the Taxi Chronicles shot.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. Because I'm seeing into your soul through that mirror, you know, and it's a cool shot. It works. Mm-hmm. It looks good, and for me, that's what it's about. You've got to have that design eye, because you can have the best camera in the world, but if you just don't see things that, you know, inspire people and like get them, like, I don't know, get them excited, or better than that is that you capture that excitement in someone else. Wow, it's just such a powerful thing. And so for me, it's not about what equipment you've got. It's about you personally. If you've got a passion for capturing people's lives or capturing places, you know, like the way places feel. If you're good at that, you can start with an iPhone. You know,
I see what I mean. Yeah.
you can spend 20,000. It's like, you know, it's a great metaphor to this is. You know, all the gear, no idea. You know, you go down to the golf club. Dave, you know, the CEO of Nike has come down with his 80 grand set of golf clubs. And Bob round the corner, who's been playing for 15 years, turns up with his £8 clubs that he bought off the car boot sale, and he wipes the floor with them. And the reason being is that he's learnt his craft. You know, he understands his craft. He doesn't need the clubs to be able to do it. Sometimes it's a bit too showy in our game. Is that a lot of people have got these fancy cameras and they don't really do much with them, mate.
Because the funny thing is, and you say it, so I bought a load of cameras. I used to live in East Africa.
Yeah.
In Kenya, so obviously you've got the safari landscape.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it was a Canon SLR D60 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I ended up giving it away. I sold the lenses as well because it was just too technical for me. But I did like the fact that you can zoom in on somebody from a far distance.
Yeah, you little creeper.
Why I say that is that when I was in, I think it was India, I was dating somebody and the relationship was a bit on the rocks. And we were having a conversation sitting by the Taj Mahal. Mm-hmm. And there's a nice view and everything. And one of our old lecturers, he had one of the big old long cameras. I was like over 20 years ago. And he must have snapped a photo of us, and we didn't know. And later on, the end of the trip, we was going for the photos, and I saw my expression, and I saw how my partner at the time, she was looking at me. So she's giving one of those looks where she's looking dead at you, and you're looking away because she's like, oh, Jesus. It's kind of a bit uncomfortable, or I don't want to really have to go down the road of responsibility that she wants to go down.
Yeah.
You know, but it said 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have been able to get that if he had just come up and snapped us in the face.
Oh, absolutely. It's and there's lots of tricks to the trade, especially when it comes to portrait photography. You've got to get a rapport with someone. I've had it before where they're in job mode. Their head's in job mode. They want to do, you know, certain looks, certain feels. For me, it doesn't work. Like, I tend to have my camera in my hand, down by my side. I'll have a chat with you, and then I'll just get you. And it'll be mid-chat. It'll be mid-conversation. It'll be mid-making you laugh. Like, just there. Like, when your eyes just get...
Why did you do that? I wasn't ready.
Exactly, yeah. But then, that's how you get emotion. You don't get emotion when I say to you, smile, you put your smile on.
You do whatever smile it's about.
When I make you laugh, that's you.
Genuine.
That's how people perceive you. That's what I love about, you know, like, it's that thing, isn't it? You know, and this is what I love about photography. If you go to like a family event and everyone goes, right, okay, family photo, you know, they all stand at one side, right, cheese, and everyone goes, you're like, when you think of your family, and especially like for me, like I think of like lost people, like I lost my dad last year, and you know, I've got some wonderful photos of him. Like, it's one of my favourite photos in the world, and it's gonna sorry, because it's gonna make me a little bit emotional. Oh my God. That's all right. Woo! It just got me a little bit. I'm all right. Is that at my wedding day, there's a photo of him sat next to me, laughing with a glass of wine. Yeah. That's my dad. It's not the photo in the, you know, at the barbecue where we're all standing still with our arms by our side with a weird smile on our face. That's not my dad.
Him doing what he does best, kind of thing.
I don't remember him as that. I remember that like head back, stupid smile, like left to right, you know, eyes closed. It's not a great photo in terms of like eyes closed, but that's him. Yeah. That's a capture of someone's soul in a photo that if you... And we, unfortunately, we'll all have to go through the period when we start forgetting our loved ones. That's why it made me emotional, because I know that photo, if I see it, that's him. That's a bit of his soul.
Yeah, I understand. You've been a great guest. I'm coming to the end now. What's the impact you want to have on the world? What's the gift? I should say gift. What's the gift you want to share with the world?
So deep, man.
Gotta be, man. It's not a reality show.
Happiness and laughter, mate. If I can make a few people smile, if it's daily, weekly, then that's me done. Like I don't think I've got the power in me to change like the world, but I've definitely got the ability to make people smile. I suppose I've got the ability to capture people's smiles as well.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that.
Thanks, bro. Cheers.
And we wish you well. We hope you liked that Taxi Chronicles interview. Don't forget to share and subscribe to get the latest episode. Ever considered investing in the continent with the fastest growing economies and population on Earth? The same continent that holds 30% of the world's known natural resources. Listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where you hear real investors with real stories from around the world share their experience of investing in Africa. We post Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. British Standard Time.